The year is 2025. The headlines tell a familiar story. The global economy is just sluggish. Growth is crawling along at a stubborn 3%. For years, we were promised a post-pandemic boom, a roaring recovery, but that roar has faded to a whimper. The easy explanations are everywhere. The lingering ghosts of COVID, the tragic echoes of conflict. But what if I told you that's not the full picture? What if the real story is something more deliberate, more hidden? What if the global economy wasn't just slowing down? What if it was being quietly sabotaged from within? Welcome, and today we're pulling back the curtain on the biggest economic story of 2025 that nobody is telling you. We're going beyond the usual suspects to uncover the hidden forces reshaping our world. This isn't just about numbers on a screen. This is about the money in your pocket, the security of your job, and the future your family will inherit. Stick with me, because what we're about to reveal will change how you see the world. Let's start with the official story. Organizations like the International Monetary Fund and major consulting firms all point to this roughly 3% growth figure. On the surface, it doesn't sound like a catastrophe. It's not a global recession, right? But context is everything. This isn't a temporary dip. It's becoming the new normal. We're living in an age of diminished expectations, where not collapsing is considered a win. For years, the engine of the world economy was globalization. The idea was simple. Let goods, capital, and ideas flow freely, and everyone gets richer. And for a long time, it worked. It lifted hundreds of millions out of poverty and brought us the incredible technologies and affordable products we often take for granted. But that engine has been sputtering. Why? Because sand has been deliberately thrown into the gears. This is where our investigation begins. The first culprit is something economists call policy uncertainty. Imagine you're trying to drive a car, but every few minutes, someone changes the traffic rules without telling you. Would you drive fast and confidently? Of course not. You'd slow right down. That's what's happening to businesses worldwide. For the past several years, governments have been locked in a quiet battle of economic wills. One day, a new tariff is announced. The next, a key technology is restricted. A major trading partner is suddenly labeled a rival, and supply chains that took decades to build are thrown into chaos overnight. This isn't happening by accident. These are strategic moves in a new kind of global chess game. The United States, China, the European Union, they are all trying to secure their own economic futures, often at the expense of their neighbors. The result is a web of tariffs and trade barriers that act like a tax on the entire world. A recent study showed that this creeping protectionism, this so-called trade fragmentation, is costing the global economy trillions in lost output. It's like everyone decided to build walls around their own gardens, forgetting that the best fruits grow when you share seeds and water. This fragmentation hurts in ways we don't always see. It makes everything more expensive. When a company can no longer source a cheap component from one country, it has to find a more expensive alternative. Who pays that extra cost? You do every time you go to the store. It's a hidden tax on your daily life, quietly eroding your purchasing power. But here's the twist. If you look closely, some economies seem to be doing just fine, even thriving. You might see headlines about record stock market highs in one nation or booming real estate in another. So, what's going on? Is the slowdown story a myth? Not quite. This is what we call the illusion of prosperity. Many of these successful economies are running on borrowed time and borrowed money. To keep the good times rolling and to shield their populations from the harsh realities of a fragmented world, governments have been spending like there's no tomorrow. National debt levels in many developed countries are at levels not seen since World War II. They are papering over the cracks with stimulus checks, subsidies, and massive infrastructure projects. This creates a dangerous addiction. The economy becomes dependent on government spending, and this spending is fueled by debt. It's like a patient kept alive by a constant drip of medication. The moment the drip stops, the system could go into shock. And this debt has consequences. It fuels inflation. When governments print or borrow massive amounts of money, the value of that money goes down. Suddenly your savings are worth less. The cost of a mortgage, a car loan, or even just your weekly groceries starts to climb relentlessly. So while some people might feel richer because their house value went up or their stock portfolio is green, the ground beneath their feet is becoming less stable. We're creating structural vulnerabilities, hiding deep problems under a thin veneer of debt-fueled growth. It's a party where the bill hasn't arrived yet. But trust me, the bill is coming. Now let's connect this back to you. Why should you, an ordinary citizen, care about global trade fragmentation or sovereign debt levels? Because these abstract concepts have very real, very personal consequences. First, your job. When global supply chains are disrupted, companies have to rethink everything. A factory in your town might shut down, not because it's unprofitable, but because it can no longer get a critical part from overseas. Entire industries are being reshaped. Jobs that were once secure are now at risk. At the same time, new jobs are being created, but they might require different skills in different locations. This transition is painful and creates a generation of winners and losers. The key is to understand where the puck is going, not where it has been. Second, your cost of living. As we discussed, trade barriers and inflation are a toxic cocktail for your wallet. The price of that new phone, your clothes, the food on your table, it's all linked to these global power plays. Your salary might be going up, but if prices are rising even faster, you're actually getting poorer. This is the silent theft of inflation, and it's a direct result of the policies we've been talking about. And third, your future. The massive buildup of debt today is a burden we are placing on the next generation. The money being spent to patch up today's problems will have to be paid back tomorrow, likely through higher taxes or reduced public services. We are essentially sacrificing long-term stability for short-term relief. The world of 2025 is not the one we were promised. The era of easy, predictable global growth is over. We've entered a new, more chaotic chapter defined by competition, not just cooperation. The invisible hand of the market is being replaced by the very visible hand of the state. Wealth and influence are being reshaped not by pure economics, but by political power plays. The losers in this new game are those who rely on a stable, open, global system. Developing nations that need trade to grow, multinational corporations with complex supply chains, and ordinary consumers and workers who benefited from the peace and prosperity that globalization, for all its flaws, helped to foster. The winners, they are more concentrated. They are the domestic industries protected by new tariffs. They are the nations that can leverage their technological or resource dominance. And they are the political players who are successfully rewriting the rules of the global economy in their favor. So, what can we do? The first step is to see the world clearly, to look past the simplistic headlines and understand the deeper forces at play. Don't be fooled by the illusion of prosperity. Ask the hard questions. How is my country paying for its spending? How are these trade policies affecting my industry, my community? This is not a story of doom and gloom. It is a story of change. And with change comes opportunity. Understanding this new landscape is the first step to navigating it successfully. It's about being prepared, being adaptable, and demanding more from our leaders than short-term fixes. The global economy wasn't just backstabbed, it was pushed into a new arena. And in this arena, only the informed will thrive. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I know these are complex topics, but understanding them is crucial. If you found this analysis valuable, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel reach more people. And for more videos that uncover the real stories behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you see these changes happening in your own life? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.